Hey, what is going on, guys? This is Jason with Jadren Aquatics. Thanks for hanging out with me again. So today we are going to talk about acclimating your shrimp. Now, this is not the way to acclimate shrimp. This is Jason's way of acclimating shrimp. This is a way that I have figured that seems to work the best for me. Now, I know it's probably not the perfect way, and it's not the way that many of you do it, so be sure down below, tell me how you're acclimating your shrimp, because I would like to learn more. Maybe there's some other better ways of different things that I can change what I'm doing. We're gonna take a box of some red steels that I just got in, and we are going to take a look at those, and I'm gonna show you step by step how I acclimate these guys. Okay, so first of all, here is the box open. And the first thing that we'll notice with these is that these guys are in breather bags. I got 2 bags of them here in breather bags. And so it really doesn't matter whether I get them in breather bags or I get them into the regular bags. I typically do the exact same thing for both of them. Now, this is how I acclimate Caridina shrimp. You can do about the same for Neos, but I've learned, at least with my Neos, well, first of all, I haven't ordered Neos in forever because I already have so many. But the Neos that I have, they're bulletproof. I mean, they are like hard to kill. So in most cases, you can take my Neos and you can float them until they acclimate, and then you can just plop and drop them, and they'll have no problems whatsoever. But you can never go too far. So it's better, I should say you can never go too far. Yes, you can acclimate for 2 straight days, and it probably wouldn't be a good idea. But you know what I mean? You can drip acclimate for longer periods of time without any problems at all. I know that Rob from Flip Aquatics, when he gets stuff in from overseas, that there's times when I think he drip acclimates for like 12 or 24 hours because their water conditions are typically so different that it's just safer to drip acclimate for longer periods of time, especially when you're dealing in a situation like in a room that I am, where I temperature control everything in my room. So I don't really have to worry when I'm drip acclimating them for there to be, you know, big swings in temperatures, because the room is air conditioned, but there are heaters in the tank. So since I don't have a heater in the tank, I don't have to worry about those conditions. But that is something that you should take in consideration whenever you are drip acclimating them. Okay, so the first thing that I like to do once I get it open and I get the bags out is I want to take the bags, and then what I like to use is just some type of small container. It doesn't matter what you use. This could probably be bigger, because whenever I'm drip acclimating these, this thing tends to fill up after a couple of hours, so you can't forget them, because the shrimp, when you're drip acclimating these guys, they love to come up to the top, and so if there's water that's just barely spilling over the edge, you would be shocked at how many of them will find their way over the edge. So you do need to be wary of that. Sometimes I'll take this container and I'll put it inside of a bigger container, so in case that does happen, or I just forget, that I don't have to worry about the shrimp dying. So I take this, and then I take these bags and I just immediately cut them open and then pour them into this container. So let's go ahead and I'll cut these and pour them in there. Now one of the things that I do like to do is, whenever you get these things in, they're all taped up and they're hard to get to. So I like to just take a corner and kind of hold onto a corner like this and try to get the shrimp kind of away from it. And then I'll take the scissors and I'll put the weight inside of here to kind of hold it, and then I'll just cut that corner off, because it's going to come pouring out pretty fast. So you want it to pour out fast, that way none of the shrimp get caught in there, because it's a pain in the butt when the shrimp get caught up in there trying to get them out. And also, this is probably obvious, but make sure there's no shrimp when you're making the cut, so that you don't cut right through the shrimp, because when you're using these breather bags, there is no air in there whatsoever, so it's difficult. Then obviously look back in the bag very carefully to make sure that you got them all out, because the highest percentage of times there is usually one still in there. But I think I've gotten pretty good at it now on cutting a hole big enough so that they come gushing out. And it looks like with that one they all came out. The other problem can be too is when there's like a plant like this in there, that plant will clog it and cause some of the shrimp to get stuck in there too, but that didn't happen this time. All right, bag 2, let's do this same thing again. Grab a corner, get the weight off of it. Okay, so now we've got them in the container, and the next thing that I like to do, now this isn't a critical part, this just kind of tells me how different is the water. That's my question. What's the pH difference and what is the TDS difference between the water that's in here compared to the water that's in my tank? Now I know who these came from and I know what his water parameters almost always are, so I wouldn't normally do this, but I'm going to do this in this case so you guys can see the difference. So the two tools that I use are, first of all, this is just a very simple pH meter. This thing, as far as being calibrated, it's not very close, but that's not what I care about. What I care about is the difference between tank to tank. So when this thing measures, it's going to measure correctly, but it's just not going to be calibrated. So let's say that the water is actually 7.0, but when I measure this, it's 6.4. Well, I know every time I measure one of my tanks, it's always going to be 6 off, or 0.6 off, because I know that's how far it's off. But all I'm trying to do is compare. I want to see the difference between this one and the one that's in my tank. And then this one, this is just a simple TDS meter. This will measure the TDS, or the total dissolved solids in the water, compared to the total dissolved solids that's in my water. Now granted, I keep my tanks at 130 TDS, but one of the things that does change it is because of the fact that I've used Safe or Prime in my water, it's allowed it to go up some. And then also the tanks that I have moss and stuff in, I use the Aquarium Co-op Easy Green, and that stuff actually adds to the TDS also. So sometimes that number can get a little bit confusing by what's actually in the water. But when I mix it, that's when I really pay the most attention to it. So let's go ahead and let's take this off. Let's turn it on, and then let's put it in the water and let's see. Okay, his water is at 114. And then the water that I am going to, the water that I'm going to is at 154 currently. So that's not a huge discrepancy. So let's go ahead and let's measure the pH also. This one takes a while, so we'll cut to where you can actually see what the pH currently is. Okay, it looks like this thing is about balanced out. It's somewhere around about 6.3. Put it in my tank. And mine is somewhere around about 6.1, and it's just barely going down. Okay, so that means the difference between this and my tank is very, very little. And so that means to me, I'm going to drip acclimate these guys for about 1 hour. Now, no matter what the difference is, the minimum amount that I drip these guys is always going to be 1 hour. The bigger the difference is, the more I'm going to drip acclimate them. So again, remember, it's okay to drip acclimate them for 6, 7, 8 hours. Again, depending on the outside temperature of where the water you're being put into your container. If you're in an air conditioner room that you keep 65 degrees and the water is 74 degrees, these things are going to end up getting too cold. So let's go ahead and let's look at the different ways to actually drip acclimate. All right, so the first way to drip acclimate, and this is the cheapest and easiest way, is just to just take some air hose, and of course the top of this air hose is going to go down into the tank that they're going in, and the end of the air hose is going to go into the container so that it can drip. I like to use these clips right here to hold these things in place. These are clips that you can get at Harbor Freight, a whole container of them. You can see I got a bunch of them over here on the side. These guys work great in a lot of different applications in the fish room, and they're only a few dollars. So that's what I use to hold that in place. And what I use to control the amount of drip is a knot. As you can see, there's just simply a knot tied in this. Now, if you have one of the valves that you can turn on and off, you can take one of those and, you know, just attach it to the end of it, and then attach another hose to that end, and that way you can turn that thing up or turn it down. Let me grab one of those. This is that hose valve that I'm talking about. This will allow you to control how much water actually comes out of it, so you can control what the drip is. This is a whole lot easier to use than the knot, but the knot is the cheapest way to do it. And sometimes if I get 3 or 4 packages in a day, I'm drip acclimating 3 or 4, so I don't have enough of the good ones. Now the other way that I've got to drip acclimate is I actually have a drip acclimation kit, and this is my favorite thing to use because it's very easy to set up and it's very easy to take down. And these are ones that I've bought. I'll try to link it above and see. I don't know if Amazon carries them or not. They might, but I'll leave a link if I can find one. And so again, it's just normal air hose. But this time, first of all, it has this little plastic hook on it that's actually you know, a hard piece of pipe, and you just put this into the tank, and then of course it has the valve on there to control how much water is dripping. And then down at the end, it's got this clip, and this clip allows you to hang it on to whatever you want to hang it on to, so that you don't have to use those little clips that I was talking about. So let's go ahead and let's get this thing set up on the tank so you can see what this looks like. Okay, so you can see we've got it hooked up here. We've got this J hook that's actually going into the tank that we're going to put them in. We've got the controller here. Then as it comes down, right now I have it hooked on top of this tank lid, and so that it's just dripping like this into the container. Normally I would put that clip right here onto the edge, but this is too far from the bottom. And I don't like putting this on the ground even though it's there. I'm always afraid I'm going to kick it. Okay, so right now we need to control the water. So you can see right now it's dripping probably 3 or 4 drips a second. I usually like to get it down to about 1 drip a second. So we just turn the valve off a little bit. Okay, that's not bad. That might be close to 2 drips a second, but that's usually what I like to put it at. And so I'll just sit there and I'll let this thing drip. Again, I'm going to let it drip for about an hour. And one thing, again, I have to be careful with is this thing is going to get full. So every once in a while, I'll come over here and I'll take a cup and I'll suck out some of the water and dispose of that water so that I don't have to worry about this thing actually overflowing. Okay, so the drip acclimating is now done. Went on for probably about an hour and a half. So the last step that I do is not necessarily something that you have to do, but it's just like one extra step that just makes me feel better about things. And that is just finishing a temp acclimating for them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take that container and then I'm going to float it inside the tank. I'll float it for about 15 minutes and then I'll just pour the shrimp out. Alright. That's another reason that I use one of these smaller containers, because it's easier just to stick it in the water and to let it float like this. So again, about 15 minutes and then I will dump them out and the process is done. Alright, there you go. I hope this helped you out a lot. I hope you understand a little bit better about acclimating shrimp. Again, this is the way that I do it. Would love to hear the way that you guys do it. because I'm always looking to learn, to improve what I'm doing. Because remember again that I've only had this fish room for a little over 2 years, so there's still a lot of things that that are new to me. And I know a lot of people see my channel, see that I have a bunch of videos, and they think that I'm an expert on things, but I'm not an expert on anything, and I'm openly admit that. And if you ask me a question, if I don't know the answer, I'll try to find it from someone who does know the answer, or I'll try to do some research to find it out, but I'm not just gonna make something up because I don't wanna lead you guys the wrong way. So be sure to leave a comment down below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, be sure and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to share and like. So thanks again, guys, and God bless.